Hi, everyone. Good evening. Carl Steinbeck here. Just want to cover tonight some more of the Massachusetts versus Karen Reed murder trial up there in Denham, Massachusetts. I asked y'all after I covered the witness for the prosecution, the Brian Albert detective that was did a really had some bizarre events happen during his testimony, very suspicious in the way he came across, the way he was evasive, and basically couldn't answer simple questions, and really had just throughout his whole testimony had a lot of things that just made you wonder what is really going on here. Why is he acting the way he's acting, and why can't he give these straight answers to something that, if he simply is telling, if he's what he's saying is trying to say that is the absolute truth, then why is he acting so evasive on so many things? So in any event, I asked y'all to if you had any inputs to give, what witness would you like me to cover next? So Jen McCabe is what I saw mostly popped up, so I'm going to cover that tonight. And there's some really bizarre things this witness has for her testimony as well. So it's really quite bizarre, the prosecution propping up all these witnesses, and they got such bizarre stories and happenings that just don't add up to being something that you can rely upon as a juror when you see this kind of testimony going on. So in any event, let's go ahead and get started. And I'm just going to start in right with the cross-examination, right where um, Mr. Jackson covers her cross, and that's about the 28, 29-minute mark here on Law and Crime. So
2117, the Commonwealth versus Karen Reed.
Hey, good morning again, Counsel, and again, Ms. Reed. Good morning, jurors. I want to ask you those same three questions. Were you all able to follow the instructions and refrain from discussing this case with anyone since we left here on Friday?
Yes.
Everyone said yes or nodded affirmatively. Did anyone happen to see, hear, or read?
jumping ahead. There she is, Jen McCabe, wife of Matt McCabe.
I do. Good morning. All right, Mr. Jackson, whenever you're ready.
Thank you, Your Honor. Ms. McCabe, family is important to you, is it not?
Yes.
As a matter of fact, it's probably fair to say that family is one of the most important things in your life.
Yes.
You indicated on Friday that you know John O'Keefe, or you knew John O'Keefe, and you considered him a friend.
Yes.
You also indicated that you know Ms. Reed, and at some point you considered her a friend.
Yes.
But clearly, John O'Keefe was not family, was he?
Okay, right there, what he's trying to do on cross-examination, establish her motives and bias potentially, that he's trying to bring out the fact that she's trying to stick tight with family, and her sister is married to Brian Albert, the one that I just covered the other night. So he's trying to show those family ties, those connections are going to be the strongest bonds you can have. So her talking about Karen and John O'Keefe are not significant. He mentioned that she said that she was sort of friends with Karen and also John O'Keefe, but what he didn't cover was the fact that she actually says she loved John O'Keefe. So it's sort of like, why would she talk about that, loving John O'Keefe? And so anyway, just I thought that was really odd. Is there something else going on here we don't know about? But the anyway, I would just cover that as well. And I again think that it's very important. All these witnesses like this for the state who were at that house last night, from my understanding, have lawyers, and their lawyers would be sitting in the courtroom there, watching what they say and advising them before and after and on breaks, and just giving them support and encouragement and advising them what to say. But if the thing is that they just happened to be people at a house and they came and went and didn't see anything about John showing up, and um, had no involvement whatsoever in anything going on that was underhanded or illegal, that it makes you wonder why are these people having lawyers represent them when they're just saying what they saw and heard that time, because the state's not targeting them for any kind of prosecution. So, and in fact, she's tied in with the Albert folks, so he's retired law enforcement, so he's connected. So if they're connected with law enforcement and are isolated that way. So why are these folks having lawyers? So what I would do is, say, could you point out your lawyer in the courtroom? I mean, that's the first thing I would say. And then, the jury's got to pick up on this being really an odd thing and ask them to point them out, and then go into all those kind of things like how much they've been paying, how much they met with them. Is this a different lawyer than what your husband has and your son? And so how much have you spent? And so anyway, if I think a normal response of a witness like her would say something like, "Well, they just told me to tell the truth." So, well, if you intend to tell the truth, why would you be paying all that money, kind of thing. So that's what I think a good way to put the jury on notice that, hey, there's something that she's worried about coming back to bite her, and not just civilly but criminally, because you don't hire lawyers usually unless there's some kind of criminal involvement, and bring out the fact that is this indeed a criminal lawyer that's there. So all right, moving on.
No.
He was not a McCabe, correct?
No.
He was not an Albert.
No.
Karen Reed is not family, correct?
Correct.
Not a McCabe.
No.
She's not an Albert.
No.
Ms. McCabe, when you were at Waterfall on the evening of the 28th, going into the early morning hours of the 29th, you spent some time with John O'Keefe and Karen Reed.
Correct.
You didn't see any tension between the two of them at the time?
No.
Matter of fact, they seemed like a normal couple to you?
I didn't see them interact much.
They were both engaging with you, correct?
I had separate conversations with them.
So John O'Keefe, we've seen from several videos, I'm not going to play the video, John O'Keefe was situated for the most part over in that corner as the camera is looking, the right corner of the bar, along with you, Nicole O'Keefe's.
Yeah, sorry, I had it on full screen. I don't know why your top of your head was cutting off, but thanks, YouTuber Plier and Kate, for confirming that.
I think Matt McCabe was over there as well, correct?
I can't be sure, but I know I spoke to Karen in that corner.
And certainly you saw nothing to suggest that there was any tension or discord between and among those individuals, certainly between Ms. Reed and Mr. O'Keefe, correct?
Correct.
When you left.
All right, Robin Broussard, you're asking how could the jurors think that McCabe's were being truthful? I would say that, number one, they don't always recall it the right way from what happened during the jury deliberations. If they thought that she was credible, maybe other people said it that she wasn't credible. I think that's probably why they had some of that voting of not guilty on the second-degree murder. But the other thing is, keep in mind they had somebody telling them what to think. The foreman of the jury that was a former cop. It sounds like he had so much influence on him, and I don't think a juror like the one we saw being interviewed would actually lead you to believe that he was really pushed around as much as he was. So I think that has a lot to do with it. And so I think having more leaders on the jury versus followers, I think would be more helpful for a case like this, especially where you have some very, very, very bizarre stuff going on with the different witnesses.
Fairview. Were you among the first to leave or among the last to leave?
I left there was 4 of us that left total. It was myself, my husband, Matt, Julie Nagel, and Sarah Levinson.
When you walked out, Karina Kolkithis was close by, close in town, correct?
Oh, wait, are you talking about leaving the waterfall?
The water.
Oh, I'm sorry. I was confused. I was talking about Fairview. Leaving the waterfall?
Right.
Yes, we were one of the last to leave.
All right. And Miss Karina Kolkithis was sort of in tow right with you as you were walking out, correct?
Yes.
And Karen Reed, my client, was also heading that direction as well, correct?
Yes.
And you said something to Miss Reed, did you not? As you walked out.
We were in a conversation. Yes.
Did you say specifically, you're coming with me to Karen?
No.
You didn't say that.
Not exactly those words.
What exactly were the words that you used?
I said, why don't you come with me?
And you even waited outside.
So initially, when she said no to that question, she should have clarified it, but she said no. And to me, it looks like when a witness is doing this, like they're hoping you don't do a follow-up question. Because if you don't ask the follow-up question to clarify, you've been able to have this whole issue bypassed. But he does circle back and ask it another way, and then she admits it. So that right there is already a sign for evasive testimony.
In what was ultimately freezing cold temperatures, Foreman Street, correct?
Yes.
If you could take a look, Your Honor, with the court's permission.
She seems very, very aggressive. She seems very, some of you folks saying combative, and it just seems like she's on edge and she's not very happy to be there. So if she's there testifying and she's there to testify accurately and truthfully, I would think that she's there to speak in a more reserved, confident manner. She doesn't seem very confident in her testimony here.
Exhibit 53, I'd like to play about maybe a 15-second clip from that.
Okay.
Actually, it's a little bit longer than that. It may be a minute. Can we pause this, Mr. Biggs?
You can see all the snow there. It's snowing quite a bit.
For the record, Your Honor, this is about run time 12, 10, 17 seconds or so.
Rows to be
You can
pretty
move that up
slick.
to 12, 10 in about 45 seconds.
It's not safe to be out in this kind of weather this time of night.
That's close enough. Ms. McCabe, do you recognize what's depicted in this portion of the video?
I see a car. It's kind of hard to see. I don't know what the thing on the white thing is.
Okay, let's go ahead and play it. Let's see if you recognize them. Pause, please. Okay, that's a terrible place to pause.
Yeah, they pause around the flags in the way.
It's also not super clear. Can you see a person in that video?
From where I'm sitting now.
It's a little tough.
Yes.
Let's go ahead and play it forward. Well, actually, we can advance that just a little bit. Did you see a person
Right there.
in the background?
Person
Right there.
Honestly, I can't make out what that is.
Let's play it forward and see if this helps. Okay, now do you see a person?
Yes.
The lighting is terrible. I apologize. Not my video. Do you know who that person is?
I don't know.
That's you, isn't it?
I can't tell from that picture if that's me.
Okay, let's maybe play it a little bit further forward.
I just think it's sort of odd if somebody can't tell it's them or not. You sort of know your own gait. You sort of know what you're wearing. You would, after having this be like probably one of the biggest nights of your life and having to testify multiple times in front of grand juries, you should know whether this is you or not. And you would have gone over this with your attorney. So that's something else. If I was Jackson, I'd use that in my back pocket. Well, surely you went over this with your attorney, right? So let's see what else happens here.
Awesome. Now, with the flag out of the way, do you recognize anybody in the foreground down at the bottom right?
That looks to be John.
Mr. O'Keefe?
Yes,
You see someone to his right.
I do. Yes.
And who is that person?
I cannot make it out in the photo.
Okay, let's go ahead and play it forward. And pause. You see the person with the sort of white shoes just above the car.
Yes.
Does that appear to be you?
I can't make that out that it's me, but I know I was there and I know I spoke with them.
Okay, so you do recall walking outside
Right.
and sort of waiting and hovering in about that area, correct?
I was talking with them.
Okay. Does it appear that you're talking with them in
No,
this frame?
that looks like they've walked away.
As a matter of fact, it looked like they walked away without talking to you outside, correct?
Or do you have video of moments before that when I was standing talking to them?
Well, See, this is the point where I get to ask the questions and you get to answer. So I'm asking you.
Yeah, she's not wanting to admit too much here. She doesn't want to have to be too cooperative. So again, why can't she recall if that's her or not? It just seems suspicious.
Do you see yourself standing in the parking lot after John and the person to his right had walked off?
Yes.
Okay, let's play it for just a few more seconds. Go ahead and pause. And what do you appear to be doing at that point?
Walking to my car.
Okay, so you turned around and left after Mr. O'Keefe and the person to his right walked away, correct?
Correct.
As you sit here, even though the video leaves a little to be desired, you know that John O'Keefe left with Karen, correct?
Yes,
So the person to his right, the more petite person with the long hair, that would be Karen.
I would assume.
Okay, so you waited out in the parking lot for a few minutes after you said or joked.
All right. It again is sort of like when you stop thinking about how this weather, it's still snowing, it's getting colder, because the later it gets early in the morning in the Northeast like that, it's going to get colder. The streets are going to get slicker. They're not going to have as many trucks out there putting de-icing or salt or sand or something on the roads. So the later it gets, the more chance also you have drunk drivers on the road and whatnot. So it just seems like a very not a smart thing to do. Now, granted, you're with cops, so maybe you think that's somewhat safer, but it's just really treacherous type conditions out there. And so having an after hours party at the Albert's house it just something doesn't sit right with that.
You're coming with me or something like that, correct?
I wouldn't, no, I was speaking to them and then I walked to my car.
You didn't say to Mr. O'Keefe, you're coming with me. You said to Karen Reed, you're coming with me, or something to that effect, correct?
Mr. O'Keefe was not outside when I said to Karen, you're coming with me. I told Karen, you're coming with me because John was still in the bar with Matt.
So you asked Karen to come with you in your car,
Yes,
to give her a ride,
yes,
separate from John O'Keefe.
yes. I figured he could go with Matt because they were still in the bar.
Was there a reason why you wanted to separate Miss Reed from Mr. O'Keefe at that moment?
No,
Why not just walk to your car with Matt and go where you're going to go?
Matt was still inside.
So you thought it was important enough to make the statement, you're coming with me or something to that effect, to my client, to separate her from John O'Keefe, even though your testimony is John O'Keefe was just inside the bar.
Objection.
All right. So he raised a good point here. Why wouldn't she want her husband to go with her? Given these treacherous conditions on the road, it's getting colder by the hour. It's still snowing out, and so for this to happen, and you're wanting to have Karen ride with you instead of your husband, that your husband can ride there separately, that does seem odd. It does seem very odd. So why is she wanting to have Karen go with her and not let Karen go with John? After all, she doesn't ever say she's a great friend of hers, right? She's just sort of more of a casual acquaintance kind of thing. So when she's trying to peel her off of John, it just looks sort of strange. And why would they be outside if it's cold and it's snowing out? Why would she want to be outside? And not just normally most people, when it's that kind of weather, as soon as you get out the door, you're going to feel that cold. You're trying to book to your car and get there as soon as possible, get the engine started, get the heat turned on, get the windows defrosted. So having that where you're willing to go out to your car alone, and granted, she wasn't going to drive alone, I guess, because she waited for her husband. But it does seem very odd that she would be willing to leave her husband there.
Sustained as to that form. Ask it differently.
Sure. Did you believe it was important at that point to ask?
Again, saying sustained. I've only heard overruled twice in this trial. I started keeping track of it. I've only heard twice where she overruled the prosecution. Just once, always soft pedal it, be very easy going on the prosecution, has no problems saying sustained against the defense. So it just has this appearance, as we've been talking, is very one-sided justice here.
Miss Reed to come with you, which would separate her from John.
There was never any idea of separating them.
Except for the fact, the idea was, you're coming with me, not you two are coming with me, correct?
Incorrect.
By definition, if she came with you, you'd be separating her from John, wouldn't you?
We were standing outside
My question
talking.
would be answered yes or no. By definition, your statement to her, you come with me, would separate her from John, wouldn't it?
It would not, because we were all going back to Fairview Road.
But not at the same
Okay, I mean, come on, really separate. Of course, it's being separated during the travel trip to the house. If you're all supposed to meet at the house and you say, hey, you come with me, yeah, obviously they're all going to eventually meet back at the house. But the point he's making, and what she very well knows, is that he was talking about being separated during the time of travel back to the Albert house. So that's all he's talking about. He's not talking about separating her to the entire night. So here she is. This witness to any normal jury would be looked at as being evasive. She can't even admit something that simple. And if people can't admit the very simple, basic foundations of questions like you would be separated from her, right? Yes. That's all separated from him, I mean. Why wouldn't she just answer that? It's very simple, very straightforward. And you know, he's having to pull teeth. And this is what you know, between the bad rulings from the judge and then having witnesses like this, it can be very, very tough being a defense counsel. I will say Jackson, he maintains his cool, and he doesn't look like this is affecting him at all. But mentally, as an attorney, you're thinking, man, this is like a starved chamber. It's not about following the normal rules, and it's you gotta mentally be tough. If anybody thinks that you can be a trial lawyer and not be mentally tough, that's completely wrong. Don't ever think you want to be a trial lawyer unless you have the ability to have that intestinal fortitude to just get crushed on bad rulings by the judge, have evasive witnesses like this, and the prosecution and the judge helping them out. So it can be very, very demoralizing. So you gotta keep the pressure on. You got to keep the foot on the gas, and don't let up. And because if you let up and you mentally get exhausted or you get fatigued and say, I just not get anywhere. How do I get this witness on off the stand? No, this is what you got to do is just keep digging. If somebody's being evasive, you got to dig even more because you're right over target then. So that's what I see him doing here, sort of picking away at these type questions, and she's showing what she's trying to hide, which is not being straight up on these very simple things. So as it goes on, we'll see, does she do better or does she do worse?
time now, correct? Your idea is to bring Karen with you, separate and apart from John.
We were waiting for John to come out, and I said, why don't you just come with me? It was innocent.
I'm not asking for your explanation. You'll get to that with Mr. Lau. I'm asking for a yes or no question or yes or no answer. By definition, your invitation would separate Karen from John, would it not?
Objection.
Right over.
Sustained. Move on.
Would it?
Okay. Again, you have Lally doing his best to protect the witness from being cross-examined and have this kind of information where she finally has to admit to it. So in any event, the judge is so quick to do sustained on these things, but more of the same. Every witness is the exact same here. There's one other question here or a comment that I wanted to address. That's not the one, but that's a good comment there. Here's Maya Rodriguez Sorensen. You're saying being a criminal defense attorney who actually tries cases, yeah, because there's all that just plead everybody out. It's the hardest job a lawyer can have. Well, I do think if you're a criminal defense attorney, you can go in any kind of litigation and just be so much better on cross-examining a witness, so much better in every facet of trial. I know I just got done witnessing a civil trial, and it was very short. Each side had limited amount of time to get all the witnesses on. It was just really, really discombobulated and inefficient, other than getting the thing over and done with quicker. But the kind of questions you saw and the kind of preparation and lack of it by civil attorneys was really shocking. And I could go on, but in any event, there's a lot of bad lawyers out there. I'll say that. All right, somebody was saying, I'm looking for that comment. Somebody was saying, oh, here, we mentioned it. Carl, stop asking why these people lawyered up. It's a ridiculous question. They have lawyers basically accusing of murder or accessory. Well, no, it's not a ridiculous question because these are defense lawyers accusing them of being part of a cover up or part of a murder. So he never directly says that any of these witnesses are the one that are involved. So the implication is there. So for a defense lawyer to be pointing the finger at somebody else, and all these people get lawyers when one of them's a cop, and they're all tied to this cop family for the Alberts and the McCabes. So they have that kind of protection, and they're being called as a prosecution witness. So they really have no fears whatsoever. So for you to say it's a ridiculous question, no, it's not, because I would say even that law enforcement, especially, they think if you lawyer up, you got something to hide, and you're probably guilty of something. So that's sort of the general thinking of lawyers. Excuse me, law enforcement officers when people lawyer up. So it's basically not only just one or two witnesses, you have multiple witnesses that are lawyering up here. So that's very suspicious. It also costs a lot of money because you can have a lot of trials. I've seen a lot of trials where other people have the finger pointed at them. I don't think I've ever seen that where a lawyer is representing other witnesses at the trial that are key prosecution witnesses. So it's just very, very unusual, very odd, and it's not normal. And so that's my take on it. Dreamscape, you're saying witnesses like they're so frustrating. The lawyer has to take it piece by piece. That can look bad to the jury depending on how it's done. Yeah, you gotta keep plugging away and trying to peel back an onion on this. And if some jurors are not savvy enough to understand, hey, you really are catching them in some evasiveness here, there's shady testimony, then they can maybe hold it against the lawyer. So you got to do it the right way, the right tone, temperament, voice inflections, all that kind of stuff. But generally you can be tough and be aggressive on a witness if they're not giving you straight answers. So I think that's perfectly normal to do and should be done.
Or would not separate John and Karen for the right.
Objection.
Sustained.
Now, when you arrived at Fairview, some folks were already there, correct?
Yes.
Who was already there?
Brian Higgins, Brian Albert, Nicole Albert, Caitlin Albert, Julie Nagel, Sarah Levinson, and Brian Albert Jr.
And then you arrived, as we saw, you walked through the parking lot, got in your car, you arrived, I presume, with your husband, Matt McCabe.
Yes, correct.
I want to ask a question about Mr. Higgins.
Mhm.
Okay, Kathy Prosser, you saying it seems pretty obvious that state attorneys have instructed witnesses to glance their way if they're uncomfortable with the question, and they'll bail out by objection when possible. So that's something I've faced before as well. I remember this one prosecutor, he would basically cough every time he wanted the witness to stall and not answer a question and say, I don't remember. So it was so obvious. And so this could be happening very well. I mean, there are prosecutors that use that kind of technique to try to get over on the defense. So it's just very, as a prosecutor, I think it's very underhanded. It's very, very in a way unethical to do that kind of thing, to be telegraphed and have some kind of code with the prosecution witnesses. So we don't know for sure, but it does seem to be that way. So let's see as how this goes on and plays out with other witnesses.
On Friday, that you saw his vehicle when you got to the scene, correct?
Yes.
And you said that it was pulled up a little bit in front of the mailbox, correct?
Yes.
Can we have exhibit 66 with the court's permission, please?
Okay.
This is a digital model of the location. Do you recognize this?
Yes.
There appear to be a relative scale model of 34 Fairview.
Yes.
This would be the front door, correct?
Yes.
And where's the mailbox? If you can point to it with the laser pointer.
Behind that, in front of that car.
Okay, so you're pointing to an area just
Look at how squiggly that green pointer is. She's nervous as all get out.
in front of a car that's in the driveway, correct?
Yes.
And then the driveway's to the right,
Yes.
and then along this line is the front lawn area and property line of 34 Fairview, correct?
Yes.
You indicated that that Jeep was just a little bit in front of the mailbox, meaning about there, correct?
Yes.
And the rear end of that Jeep would be butting up against the driveway,
Yes.
or at least the line of the driveway, correct?
Yes.
That's quite a bit of detail about where that Jeep was. Would you agree?
No, because I drove down the street and I took a left into the driveway and there was a Jeep there.
What I'm asking is, you didn't just say, your memory was not just somewhere in front of the house. It's literally right in front of the mailbox, the front end of it, adjoining the line of the driveway, correct?
Yes,
That detail obviously stuck out in your mind.
it did because I was wondering whose Jeep it was.
Did you discuss that detail with your husband at any point?
Not sure.
You're not sure? You might have?
I'm not sure if I said whose Jeep is that.
No, I don't mean then. I mean between then and now, have you and Mr. McCabe ever discussed where that Jeep was, your memories of where that Jeep was?
Possibly.
You're aware that he put the Jeep in the exact same place that you did.
Objection.
Okay, possibly. I think every single detail of this case have gone over and over with her husband, also with her attorney. She's being an attorney. You just don't say possibly when you have this kind of pressure on you. And think about the time she's had to testify in front of a grand jury. So she's all over the details of this case. So saying possibly like that about a Jeep and what the Jeep was doing, I think every kind of detail has been gone over by this witness with not only her husband, but also her lawyer.
Are you aware of that?
I am. Oh, wait. No, excuse me. Repeat the question.
You're aware that he puts the Jeep in the exact same spot you just put the Jeep, right in front of that mailbox, right?
I know he knows where the Jeep was. I'm not aware what he said in here.
Does he know where the Jeep was because you told him what to say about the Jeep?
Absolutely not. It's because we drove together in the car and I asked. I possibly could have asked.
Absolutely can be an indicator of people not telling the truth. I actually saw it in the civil trial I looked at. The plaintiff used the word absolutely, and it was so obvious he's lying. So, yeah, that when somebody says absolutely or very, very strong words like that, it's a lot of times a sign of the opposite, that they're not being truthful about it. Not always, but oftentimes.
At a time, please,
I'm
ma'am.
sorry, I didn't mean to step on your words. I thought you.
That's okay. You can continue.
Thank you.
Okay, that's okay. You can continue. Look how she's trying to be assertive and aggressive as a witness on this case. It's very odd. It's very odd. She's definitely trying to control something here. She's not relaxed at all.
Appreciate that.
I don't think we got your answer, though.
Okay.
Yeah, I think Madam Court Reporter was asking for your answer.
Can you repeat your answer?
To the question of did he know where the Jeep was?
Whether or not you told him where the Jeep was.
I did not need to tell Matt where the Jeep was. He knew because we were in the car together.
But you two discussed it.
When are you asking?
At any time between January 29th from today.
I'm sure we have, yes.
You were also interviewed by Trooper Proctor on January 29th, 2022, correct?
Yes.
And you were asked,
Look at the way she says yes. I mean, it's very much an area she does not want to be questioned on. She is not happy about this. Judy, you're saying here some homeowners insurance also provide attorneys. That's for civil lawsuits. That's not criminal. So that wouldn't apply here. Insurance companies do not provide lawyers for criminal behavior. So just wanted to answer that one.
a series of open-ended questions. What did you see? Where did you see it? Correct?
Yes.
Have we put any words in your mouth?
No.
We told you what to say at that time.
No.
And you told Trooper Proctor that when you arrived at the scene, after you got there, you, quote, first observed the vehicle, meaning Miss Reed's SUV, parked on the street by the driveway facing the direction of Chapman. Correct?
Do you have something I can look at to refresh my memory?
Sure. Do you not have a memory of exactly what you told Trooper Proctor?
Well, I know what
Yes or no? You need your memory refreshed?
I would like to see what the report says, please.
Yeah, refreshed my memory. Refreshed is a legal term. So this is something her lawyer would have talked to her about, that if she's not comfortable saying something, make sure you ask to see the document and don't go off your memory. Ask to see the document if you're not absolutely positive what you're saying. And so for her to use the word refresh, definitely to me, lets me know this is an attorney that was telling her to use those words. A what is it? A cat, AKA the cat lady. You're saying, can I name the grounds for objections a bit to see if these objections are proper? I can tell you most of these objections are not proper, and most of them, I would say the court is anticipating and just basically guessing what he's objecting to, and a lot of them, most all of them make no sense whatsoever. And so I don't know if I want to speculate on those, but I can just tell you most of these are not legitimate grounds. It's fair cross-examination type questioning. So I just hope the defense does a better job this next go round, because I think this next prosecutor, Brennan, is going to be an absolute terror to deal with.
Please.
Permission? Yes. Thank you. I'm going to direct it to vaccines. Paragraph 3.
Mhm.
This is the face page. You'll review that, especially the highlighted portion. Let me know after you've reviewed it. Just read it to yourself. Did you have that, does that refresh your recollection?
Yes, I know I told,
I'm asking you, I'm so sorry to do this, I don't mean to be rude. I'm just asking you, does that or does that not refresh your recollection?
regarding,
What you said to Trooper Proctor on the 29th?
well, I know what I said to Proctor Trooper on the 29th.
Okay. I have to do it this way, it's court rules.
Mhm.
Does that help you with your recollection of what you told Trooper Proctor?
I didn't tell I told Trooper Proctor the car was outside when I looked at the front door, it was straight outside.
I can't quite get the answer I'm looking for. The court is going to require me to ask this question again.
Mhm.
Does that refresh your recollection, yes or no, as to what you told Trooper Proctor? Yes.
I did not say this to Trooper Proctor, no.
It doesn't help?
No.
Okay. May I approach?
Yes.
Thank you. So you did speak to Trooper Proctor on the 29th, correct?
Correct.
And Trooper Proctor asked you some very specific questions about where things were, correct?
Correct.
Focused on Miss Reed's SUV, didn't he? Asked you questions about where Miss Reed's
If
SUV
you
was.
can show me in the report.
Just read it.
So just off of what I just read, is that what you're going off of? Yes?
I'm asking for your memory. You're testifying.
Yes, so my memory is exactly where the car was.
Hold on. So it's very important that both of you, one person at a time, speaks.
Okay.
Madam Court Reporter has to do what you're both saying, and she can't do it simultaneously. So the best way to do that is, Ms. McCabe, just let counsel ask the question and
Okay.
then you answer. And if it takes a lot more time than we expect it to take, it does. Okay, so just
Thanks.
go ahead, Mr. Jackson.
Thank you, Your Honor. I'll slow it down.
Unless it calls for a yes or no answer.
Did you talk to Trooper Proctor about where the SUV was?
Yes,
Thank you. And he asked you questions about where it was situated outside, correct?
yes,
And you told him that you first observed it parked on the street by the driveway facing the direction of Chapman, correct?
I told him that when I looked out the front door, the car was straight ahead. And yes, it was facing up Chapman.
And you left out a little part by the driveway, correct?
That could have been his interpretation or an error on his part.
I see. So Trooper Proctor is wrong about what you said.
Objection.
No, I'll let him have it. Do you think he's wrong about what you said?
Why don't you say overruled and let the witness answer the question from what the defense counsel posed, not you, the judge?
I 100% said it was straight out the front door.
Okay, next question, please.
Thank you, Your Honor. And during the course of that conversation, you never once, Ms. McCabe, not once, mentioned a several-ton Jeep with a snowplow attached to it, did you?
I'm not sure if I did or not.
Let's take another look at the report. Would that refresh your recollection to see the report?
Objection.
Do you think that will help you?
Yeah, this is really strange. Again, Lally not wanting to get to the details of this witness's testimony, what she might have said to another party, the investigating officer. So, and now she's going to ask the witness if it will help her. I mean, this is a judge overstepping her bounds.
I'll take a look at it.
Okay,
May I?
yes.
Direct your attention once again to paragraph 3. You've had an opportunity to review.
I have, yeah.
May I approach Your Honor?
Yes.
That looks like a report from Trooper Proctor of your interview, correct?
Correct.
That interview was taken on January 29th, correct?
Correct.
That interview was taken just a few hours, not days or weeks, hours after the events in question, correct?
Correct.
And you were asked what you saw, what you observed in front of 34 Fairview on that morning, correct? I'm sorry, the night before, correct?
He asked specific questions about Miss Reed's vehicle.
Okay. And when you said where you remember Miss Reed's vehicle being, you placed it in the exact spot where you're now saying there was a Jeep with a snowplow on it, correct?
Incorrect. I never placed Miss Reed's car in the spot where Mr. Higgins' vehicle was.
So as Trooper Proctor was taking notes about what you were saying, he just got it wrong.
You'd have to ask Trooper Proctor.
I will.
Right there, for her to say that and smart back at a defense lawyer, and this is a murder case, it's just very, very odd. I mean, she's very much acting strange and trying to stay in control, but she's not under control. I think you can tell that she's very angry and she absolutely hates being there and being questioned. And there's something else going on here.
And you never mentioned, according to that report, not one word about a Jeep, right?
I may never have been asked about a Jeep.
So if you weren't asked about a Jeep, you also weren't asked about a Nissan Altima. Mention that?
No.
Right. Because what he asked you was, what did you observe in front of the house? Ma'am, that's what he asked you, wasn't it?
No.
And you said, I observed her car by the house.
No.
And you never mentioned the Jeep, did you?
You are not portraying what the conversation was.
Did you or did you not mention a Jeep sitting on that, right by that driveway, Trooper Proctor? Yes or no?
It's not in the report. I don't recall if he asked me about a Jeep.
Now, following the events of January 28th, 29th, You spoke extensively to Chris and Julie Albert, correct?
What do you mean by extensively?
Did you speak at all?
Yes, we did.
Between then and now, to Chris and Julie Albert?
Do I speak to Chris and Julie Albert
Have you spoken to them about these events between then and now?
about this case? Is that what you're asking?
Look at her attitude right now. I mean, she is defiant. She is ticked off. She's very angry. And it's like she's almost daring him to repeat that question. So let's see what happens here.
Yes, Ms. McCabe, I'm asking about this case.
Of course, I speak to them all the time about the vicious harassment we are all receiving.
Okay, she just couldn't wait to blurt that out there, right? So the vicious harassment, but they don't talk about the details of the case. They don't talk about their testimony. They don't talk about, hey, what do you think the defense counsel is going to question me on? Hey, what's the prosecution saying to you about it? So really none of that questioning is going on. So this is a chance for her to be evasive. And he's not talking about the discussion of what the protesters are doing. He's referring to talking about the facts of the case. The facts of the case, not what other people are doing unrelated to the case.
Okay, but that wasn't my question. My question was, did you talk to them about this case, Ms. McCabe?
Yes.
I realize you want to give additional answers in the editorial. I'm asking you very specific questions.
Objection.
Okay, so objection as to the form. We've talked about this at sidebar, Mr. Jackson.
Okay, there she's scolding in front of the jury. That looks that's a way to signal to the jury that this attorney is not to be trusted. He's going outside the bounds and he's trying to get away with something. So I just don't like that kind of behavior by a court. If you got a problem with a lawyer, call him up, chew him out outside the presence of the jury, and just let it be known that you're going to have another courtroom break, a recess, and outside the presence of the jury, and dress the attorney down if he's really doing something bad. But this is just so minor. Whatever she's trying to say he's doing wrong, it's just really irrelevant and minor. And I just think it's very much, again, showing some bias on the part of the judge here.
You've talked to them about the details of that night, correct? The 28th going into the morning of the 29th?
Yes.
You've talked to them about what happened at the bar, correct?
We've spoke about how we were all at the bar and Karen and John came in.
Is that yes or no?
Yes.
Okay. You've spoken to them about your memory of what happened at the house at 34 Fairview that night, correct?
Yes.
You've spoken to them about who was at the bar, not just what happened, but who was there, correct?
Correct.
You talked to them about the timing of the night, correct?
I don't think specifically, no.
When people came to the bar, when they left, when people got to Fairview, when they left Fairview, things of that nature.
Well, they were at the bar, so they know who was there and when they left.
And ask if you know what they know. I'm asking if you've ever spoken to them about these issues. Yes or no?
I can't be sure if we've spoken about the timeline.
Really? Okay. AKA the cat lady saying, oh, and these witnesses keep calling Karen either Ms. Reed or most often the defendant, which is weird. Yeah, well, that's what happens with the prosecutors. They want to dehumanize the defendant. And so what they do is they tell other witnesses, do not call, in this case, Karen Reed, or Ms. Reed. Call her the defendant as much as you can. And as a defense counsel, I would say sometimes I hear Jackson calling Karen Reed my client. I don't think it's ever a good idea to call your client my client in front of a jury. I think it is another way of dehumanizing the client. I think the best way to do is just call her Karen. I would, if I was her attorney, I'd just call her Karen and repeatedly call her Karen. It's the best way to humanize your client. And especially don't testify. You want the jury to think favorably of her. And so just instead of saying Ms. Reed, I think sometimes he calls her Ms. Reed if he doesn't call her my client. So that's a game that these attorneys always play. So if you're defense counsel, you call your client by their first name. Otherwise, because you got to counteract the prosecution doing the defendant route.
And you've talked to them about when they got there and when they left.
I have no idea when they arrived at the waterfall.
Once again, Ms. McCabe, that's not what my question was. Do you understand my question? Have you spoken to them about their memory of that night and when they came alive?
They have not shared with me when they got there or when they left.
In the 2 years or 2.5 years since this event, you've had extensive conversations with your friends and family about this circumstance, correct?
Correct. Yes.
You've told them your observations, your story, correct?
Correct.
Your observations of the night.
Correct.
And they've told you their observations of the night, correct?
Correct.
So y'all have compared and contrasted your perspectives of what happened that night, correct?
We've tried to figure out what happened to John, our friend.
And you've talked to them extensively about your observations and what your story or your version is. Is that right?
To be honest, not extensively.
Yeah. Okay. I'm one such medical doctor parachuting in. You're asking, is it normal for a witness to behave so evasively? I can just tell you it happens all the time. There's so many lies that go on in the courthouses on a daily basis. It's really shocking. And, but that's what you have juries and judges there to sort it all out. And so it's, yeah, it's very, very commonplace. There's not enough accountability for that kind of thing. And it's not frequent enough that folks get charged with perjury. YouTube replier, you're saying she's a really aggressive witness, paranoid and deliberately defiant. That's my impression.
Speaking about it is very painful and difficult.
What does extensively mean? More than twice?
Well, you tell me.
I'm asking the questions, Ms. McCabe. That's how this works.
I understand, but extensively would mean almost every day.
Do you talk to them almost every day?
I do, but not about the case.
Subjects about this case?
So anyway, she talks to other witnesses almost every day about the harassment they're receiving. Why would that be something to be talked about every day? Even if it was happening, why would you keep comparing notes to what the other witnesses are facing? Unless it's your family members, I suppose. But if she's, how many other witnesses is she talking about? Is she talking about the Alberts?
Come up every day?
The harassment of the case does, yes.
What about the specific facts of the case?
No, it's the facts aren't spoken as much as the vicious harassment is spoken about.
Understood. So you've told them your version of the events, correct? And they've told you their version of the events.
Correct.
And remind me, Chris and Julie Albert are, in fact, Colin's parents.
Correct.
At some point, you became aware that
Great.
your daughter, Allie, was involved in this matter to some extent, correct?
Yes.
You became aware that there was an extraction of your phone that revealed some data about her whereabouts.
That's not how I became aware now.
Like 360?
Yes, I know what that is.
That's what I'm asking about.
Mhm.
You became aware that you know your phone was extracted, correct?
I willingly handed over my phone.
Oh, we'll get to that.
Oh, okay.
You know that your phone was extracted.
Yes, I handed it over.
And you know that your daughter's whereabouts were revealed based on data on that phone, correct?
That is not how I became aware of my daughter's whereabouts.
You testified at the state grand jury, questioning by Mr. Lally, correct?
Yes.
You were asked about the Life 360.
Yes.
You answered those questions very fluidly.
Yes.
Yes, I know what Life 360 is. I use it all the time. It's an app, etc.
Absolutely.
Okay, let's go over that for a second. You admitted that it works as a, quote, GPS as far as where people go and everywhere that you go, correct?
I think that this witness harassment, can defense try to keep it out next trial? So I think they did want this out, and the judge allowed it in if it came in organically. So, you know, is a prosecutor then going to tell the witness, you can mention the harassment, I'm not going to ask you about it, but if you want to, you know, include that in an answer based on different defense questions and go ahead and answer it. Did that conversation happen? I would ask the witness about that. Did you have a conversation with the prosecutor about how you can bring out witness intimidation issues? So again, it's it's something you don't want to have a sideshow on what's going on to have this kind of public pressure that's on her being a part of this case. So it can sidetrack the case, and the jury can focus on things other than what the evidence is. So if I was the prosecutor, I would not want this to come out. And so I think I think it actually helps the defense. So it's like, why are you getting pressure? Why is the public putting pressure on you if you're telling the truth? And so in any event, it is sort of a sideshow that's not relevant, but at the same time, it can sort of be like, make the jury think, well, why is she being pressured? What's she saying about this case that the general public masses are upset about? Maybe I need to pay closer attention to what she's saying.
Correct.
You indicated that it works as a reliable quote unquote tracking device, is your testimony.
Correct.
You indicated that you rely on it, quote, so you know where your kids are at all times. Is that right?
Correct.
And you even said that it's a quote unquote good parenting tool. Is that right?
Correct.
And the reason you said that is because it's accurate in your experience and it's reliable. Is that right?
It's a good tool, but it is not always accurate.
But you said when you testified in front of the great grand jury that it's accurate and it works as a GPS as far as where you go and everywhere you go, correct?
Objection.
Did you say that?
Can I see it?
Sure. May I approach you?
Yes.
Lines 13.
You said 13 through 15?
Yes, ma'am.
Mhm. Okay.
May I, Your Honor?
Yes.
Mhm.
Does that refresh your recollection?
It does, yes.
Question and answer?
Well, I just don't see the word accurate on there. I don't know if I missed it.
Ms. McCabe, does that refresh your recollection as to the question and answer about whether you said it works as sort of a GPS as far as where you go and everywhere that you go?
Correct.
And your answer was, yeah. Correct?
Yes.
So where did Allie go after she supposedly dropped off Colin Albert?
She went nowhere.
Did you check her Life 360 app to verify that she went, quote, nowhere?
At that point, I had no reason to check her.
So the answer is no, you didn't.
No.
Okay. Did you ever verify through the 360 app that in fact Allie did not go home, but rather was out driving until after 1:30 a.m.? You ever check the app and see that?
Did I ever check Life 360 app for that?
Yep.
No.
Okay. But you believed her when she said she came home.
Yes.
And just
All right, Lisa Lee, you're asking, why not just let her hold that paperwork if she gets to look at it so frequently? That's what way the rules of evidence are. You're supposed to give the document to the person, let them refresh their memory, and then after they get their memory refreshed, then you take the document away. So that's normal courtroom procedure. So nothing unusual about that.
like you believed her when she said she picked up Colin, dropped him off, and then came home.
Yes.
Okay. The Alberts had a dog, pardon me, correct?
Yes.
What was the dog's name?
Chloe.
You indicated that on the morning of January 29th,
Mhm.
after 6 a.m., it was still relatively dark out, you burst into the bedroom of Brian and Nicole Albert's home, correct?
Yes,
You did that specifically to wake up, according to you, Brian Albert and Nicole Albert, correct?
yes.
What was clean?
I don't know.
So you'll agree that, at least from their perspective, you walked in the front door unexpectedly, correct?
Yes,
You walked upstairs unexpectedly, correct?
yes,
Still dark outside, right?
yes,
You walked through their door and you said you burst into the door into a dark room where they were sleeping, correct?
yes,
Bizarre behavior.
Mr. Albert said that you were somewhat hysterical. Would you agree with that?
yes.
You were loud, right?
I was trying to wake them up.
You were somewhat chaotic.
Yes,
And you don't remember a 70-pound German Shepherd having any reaction.
no,
Matter of fact, you don't remember the dog being there at all, correct?
correct.
You never saw that dog, correct?
I have no memory of seeing that dog.
Okay, so as you sit here today,
Mhm.
you cannot say that the dog was here because you don't have a memory of ever seeing it.
I did not see it, no.
And remind
Yeah, and then she says, I don't remember. So she's already waffling on that part. German Shepherd dog, you're gonna remember it. They're gonna be so spun up. They're gonna be so loud, barking like crazy. So that's just that right there is a very suspicious clue.
me once again, when you were leaving that night, that early morning before,
Mhm.
who was the last person to leave? It's Caitlin?
I believe she left after us.
We've talked about this and I want to get into a little bit more detail about it. You indicated that at some point you looked outside and you saw Karen Reed's SUV in front of the house, safe to say, correct?
Correct.
About what time was that you first saw it?
I can just give you maybe approximates. It- I know I texted when I saw them, so whatever time that was.
All right, let's see if we can narrow that down just a little bit.
Mhm.
You also indicated that you saw Ryan Nagel's vehicle outside.
Saw lights.
Okay. Lights belonging to the vehicle, right?
Yes, I knew there was another vehicle outside.
And where was that in relation to Miss Reed's vehicle?
It was behind it. I didn't pay much attention to it.
Okay, and where was the Jeep in relation to Ryan Nagel's vehicle and Karen Reed's SUV?
I remember seeing Karen Reed's SUV straight, and then I saw the lights of Ryan Nagel. I did not pay attention to where it was. I was just looking at Miss Reed's vehicle.
Was Ryan Nagel's vehicle and those lights that you remember,
Mhm.
they in front of the Jeep or behind the Jeep?
I am not certain.
Haven't you testified previously that you remember the Jeep being between Ryan Nagel's vehicle and the SUV?
I am not certain where Brian Nagel's vehicle was.
So as you sit here now, you don't know if it was in front of the Jeep as you placed it by the mailbox.
It would be,
Let me finish my
Mhm.
question.
Mhm.
Behind the Jeep or somewhere in between?
it definitely was not in front of the Jeep.
Definitely was not in front of the Jeep.
No.
So it was definitely behind the Jeep.
Behind or to the side, I'm not sure.
Well, if it's parked on the street in front of the house, it's not gonna be beside the Jeep, right? That's gonna be in the middle of the
It
road.
would have been in the middle of the road, correct? So if it's pulled over, it's behind the Jeep.
Okay, so now we've narrowed that down. It's Karen Reed's SUV, as we're looking at the property, Karen Reed's SUV. To the right of that, as we're looking at from the street, at the property, to the right of that Jeep, behind that Ryan Nagel's vehicle, correct?
Correct.
You sure about that?
If my memory serves right, yes.
If your memory serves you. Okay. So,
You know, dogs, yeah, they can go really berserk over this the littlest things. Just a couple days ago, we had some dog just running through the yard, chasing a bunch of deer, and then went to chasing Leo, and Leo was running into the garage, and Leo wound up being terrorized by this dog, and I was chasing the dog, yelling at the dog, and anyway, it was a lot of chaos caused by this one dog, and me trying to get the dog out of the garage was not easy, but in the end, was able to get the dog calmed down, and Leslie and I were able to find the home for this dog. But anyway, dogs can be very much feeding off of human energy. And if she's talking about all this energy she has, where is that dog? This dog would be freaking out, barking like crazy. The dog would be barking before Jen came in the house and bashed through the door. So, yeah, this is not adding up, folks. It isn't at all. Where's that dog? And they got rid of the dog shortly thereafter. So, a lot of stuff going on here that just makes you shake your head and wonder what is the reason that these people are not just talking casually and easily about what happened that night in question.
you were asked about the arrival of Mr. Nagel's car at the state grand jury. Do you recall that?
I believe so.
That was in April 26th, 2022.
Mhm.
Just
Okay.
remember. Okay. Does that sound about right? I
Yep.
don't expect you to
Yes.
surprise that date.
Yes.
You were asked, what time did you see Ryan Nagel's vehicle arrive at the location? And you indicated that it was 12:23. You remember that?
Do you have it?
Yes, Kim. The defense, I expect this next go around will have a expert witness talking about how this case should have been investigated and handled. So that's something that it's just so obvious that this is botched from the get go, and they can talk about Proctor's testimony as well. So this is something that's going to help the defense get a leg up. And so I can't believe the prosecution would have a single witness, if that's an expert, to say what they did was appropriate.
I do. Yeah.
Yes.
Take a look at lines 21 on the highlighted portion of the
Okay.
May I, Your Honor?
Yes.
Interesting comment here.
You were asked, do we know what time the brother came, meaning Ryan Nagel,
Okay.
correct?
Correct.
And the question from Mr. Lally was, that was from a grand juror, the question from Mr. Lally was, if you know, correct?
Correct.
And your answer was, I believe he was out front at 12:23. Is that right?
Correct.
And the reason you could be so precise with that time, Ms. McCabe, is because you had asked Julie Nagel to give you her text messages with Ryan for that night, and you'd refresh your recollection about the time, correct?
Correct.
All right. And you've also testified that as soon as you saw Miss Reed's SUV, you texted John. Is that right?
Correct.
Here, exclamation point, question mark. That was the first text, right?
Correct.
I just think it's very unusual for having a witness say correct this many times. Normally, a witness doesn't want to have to say correct, and it's the attorney's asking a question at the end of it saying correct. And so for her to be saying correct like this, it just seems very very rehearsed. And if she has a lawyer, I guess that makes sense of why that's happening. But you just don't come across as credible as if you're saying the word correct like as many times as she is.
But your text to John was at 12:27. You recall that?
Yes,
That's 4 minutes after you know Ryan Nagel arrived at the scene, correct?
correct.
Since Karen Reed arrived before Ryan Nagel, she and John had to have been there 4 to 5 minutes before you ever saw her.
Yes, officer. Agree.
Objection.
Is that right?
Why don't you say overruled, Judge?
Ryan Nagel texted his sister at 12:23 here. And then he texted again that he was going to leave. Then Julie Nagel went outside,
Ms.
and
McCabe, that's not my question.
I'm explaining what happened in the 4 minutes.
You can explain at another question. My question is very specific. Given the fact that Karen Reed, by definition, arrived at the location before Ryan Nagel, and Ryan Nagel arrived at 12:23, that means,
Sorry.
and you didn't notice the SUV until 12:27, that means her car was there for at least 4 minutes before you ever noticed it, correct?
Objection.
Is that correct? Can you answer that question?
Correct.
Yeah. Won't overrule it. Doesn't want to hurt the prosecution's feelings.
The snow condition. We've heard a lot about the snow condition. I'm not going to beat that dead horse. But it's safe to say that you would agree with me that it was a light dusting of snow, correct? I should be specific about the time. It was a light dusting of snow at or around 12 to 12:30, 12:45, something like that.
It was starting to accumulate.
And accumulate means stick to the ground, not just fall and melt, right?
Yes,
So it was starting to turn like a very thin blanket of white.
yes.
You indicate that, or you indicated on Friday that you saw some sort of tire tracks. Is that right?
On Friday? I don't believe,
I thought in your testimony to Mr. Lally on Friday, you indicated that you saw some tire tracks. I could be wrong.
yes, I don't remember that.
Okay, well, let me ask you, did you see any tire tracks?
At one point, yes.
Okay, when was that point?
I'm not sure.
Was it before Ms. Reed's vehicle got there? Was it after? Let's use that as a barometer first.
I believe it was after Miss Reed's vehicle was there, because that's why I was drawn to look outside.
And what did those tire tracks look like? How would you describe them?
Almost like as a wave went like this. So
Like a half J?
to my recollection, it was almost like started, if Miss Reed's vehicle's here, let's pretend, it was kind of like that, like a bit of a wave. So if you started on coming towards her, it'd be more of a wave,
Okay,
like this in the road.
what it sounds like is perhaps, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but perhaps what you're describing is tracks in the middle of the road. If someone is pulling off parallel, they would pull to the right and then stop. And those are the tracks that you saw? That's the wave that you saw?
It wasn't up to her car. It doesn't look like your description.
Okay, fair enough, I'm just trying here. So if it didn't go up to her car,
Mhm.
those tracks belong to somebody else.
Well, when I saw her car, it had already moved up.
Well,
This is the worst case I've ever seen of a judge appearing to be so much trying to assist and help the prosecution's case. I've never seen rulings go this bad and be so one-sided, because she can't even call the rulings evenly as like overruled. If the objection is not valid, she should say overruled for Lally. Instead, she's saying I'll allow it, or else directly ask the question to the witness. That's very uncalled for. And if she's going to always say I'll allow it instead of saying overruled, then why didn't she do it for both sides? It just is so obvious she's in her mind doing things that she's trying to help the prosecution. And if the DA is the one that got her job, then she's She is, I think, if not knowingly biased, she's very subjectively biased, and she just can't help it. It's just coming across so extremely bad this way.
Wait a minute, you already said that when you saw her car, it was directly in front of you,
And then it moved at one point.
right? That's not what I'm asking about. Let's just take the point at which you first saw the car.
Mhm.
Is that yes?
Yes.
Okay. When you first saw the car,
Mhm.
that's when you saw the tire tracks. You just said that.
No, I did not say when I first saw the car, I saw the tire tracks.
I thought you just said a couple of questions ago that you saw the tire tracks because your attention was drawn to her car. That would be the first time you saw her car, right?
I'm saying I saw the tire tracks because I was looking out at her car. I never said when I saw the tire tracks or where her car was when I saw the tire tracks.
Well, I thought you just said, because I asked, when did you see the tire tracks? You said, I saw the tire tracks when I looked and saw her car because my attention was drawn to her car. I saw the tire tracks. That would be the first time you looked at her car, correct?
It's not, doesn't have to be the first time I looked at her car. I looked out multiple times.
Did you see the tire tracks the second time?
Well, I'm not exactly sure.
Did you see
So she looked multiple times at the car. That just doesn't seem to make any
the
sense.
third time?
Again, I'm not sure.
Okay, so it could have been the first time.
Could have been.
But they didn't lead to the back tires of her car, did they?
No.
Let me have just a moment, Your Honor.
Yes.
Yeah, someone was asking about Alan Jackson's questioning style. I think he's much better than a lot of attorneys. I think he could be more aggressive, and I think he definitely needs to push back against the judge. He has to he has to ask a lot of open-ended questions just due to the fact that he doesn't have depositions, and because the police report is so sketchy and botched, and they just took notes and never actually had written statements by folks that they had assigned to and attest to under oath. So it's just such a botched investigation. And basically the prosecution's trying to put all these witnesses to show what was going on around the house around that time. And really what it does is every one of these witnesses creates reasonable doubt. The reason they create reasonable doubt is because none of it makes any sense. They're all being evasive. They're dodging and deflecting and trying to avoid these just simple, straightforward answers to questions that Jackson's posing here. So when you combine that with the fact that so many people are coming and going out of the house, and John O'Keefe supposedly never made it into the house, but yet he's laying outside the house when all these people would have left the house to go home, and nothing's being seen at that time. So none of this is making any sense. And with a biased law enforcement officer, Trooper Proctor being the one to investigate it, it was pretty much Karen was determined to be guilty right from the get-go, and so they never took it serious. They thought they had her, and then basically the police will side with what the police say. So if the Lieutenant Tully showed up and told Trooper Paul, the so-called expert for the law enforcement team, what exactly happened to John O'Keefe in relation to Karen's car, all that is hearsay. There's no science to back it up. There's no forensic type stuff to back it up. There's no physics to back it up. It's all just preposterous gibberish nonsense. So that's all they got left. And so they're basically trying to make it look like Karen had some kind of motive to kill him, but there's no motive that you really find here for Karen to do anything to hurt John. In fact, the way she's acting, she's acting like she's very much upset about the condition he's in. She's definitely wanting him to be able to survive this. So none of this adds up. She's not acting like somebody that I think is a guilty party. So that's my take on it so far.
In addition to Trooper Proctor interviewing you on the 29th, you also gave extensive testimony on April 26th, 2022 in front of a state court grand jury, correct?
Correct.
And you were asked about the location of Miss Reed's vehicle. I'm still staying with that for just a quick second, if you don't mind. Is that right?
Correct.
You were asked where that SUV was in relation to Ryan Nagel's car. Is that right?
Would I be able to look at it to refresh my memory, please?
Well, let's start with this. Do you remember being asked about Karen Reed's SUV and Ryan Nagel's truck?
To be honest, I've had a few grand juries, so if you could show me what you're talking about, I would greatly appreciate it.
Here, a question from Dreamscape. Can there not be a judge substitution requested if any case needs one? This is it. Yeah, you don't get to pick your judges here. And especially if there's a retrial, it's gonna be the same judge. So unless the judge moves on, retires, that kind of thing, she's gonna stay on this retrial.
I'm gonna have just a moment, Your Honor.
Yes.
May I approach?
Yes.
Try to speed things up, Your Honor. I have just a moment.
Yeah,
Okay, take your
something I noticed too, Swamp. You're saying over and over again, it's late night parties. Looking out the street in front of the house. Ask her why. I agree.
Entire grand jury, direct your attention to 182 to 187. May I approach?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
That's the entirety of your state court grand jury.
Okay.
I'm going to direct your attention to pages 182 to 187. You can probably scan those pretty quickly and just let me know after you scan those.
Okay.
Those pages, I should say.
This is a good question, Mad 960. You're saying, I remember thinking when watching the original, what the heck is going on with all these witnesses? The prosecution used so much time. Do you think the defense felt pressure to keep their side brief? It is something that is very odd to have all these witnesses that weren't really part of an investigation all of a sudden be front and center stage, taking up all this time in a trial, like you're saying. So I thought the same thing. I thought, wow, what a boring case this is when I first started having some kind of limited engagement on it. But in any event, yeah, it's just parading all these witnesses in there, talk about what they did that night. It just basically shows that there is reasonable doubt that even the prosecution believes about Karen. So I'll follow that more later with my with the title on a YouTube live Q&A in the coming days. So that's something that I'm thinking along the same tracks as that. I mean, she has a lawyer. She's not prepared to answer this question. had all these grand jury testimonies, all this is fresh in her mind. So what's going on here? Yeah, that's a prep question. Her lawyer or the prosecutor told her.
May I, Your Honor?
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you. Did you have an opportunity to glance at those pages?
I did, yes.
As you glance at those pages, my question is a relatively simple one. I wonder if you have an opportunity. At no point, when you were describing the vehicles that were out front, in front of 34 Fairview on that night, at no point, under oath, in front of that grand jury, did you ever mention a Jeep? Did you?
I was not asked about any other vehicles out front.
So when you were talking about the vehicles that you saw in front and with some painstaking detail, talking about the black SUV and Ryan Nagel's truck, you just left out the Jeep because nobody asked you about it.
I didn't read anything in that about Ryan Nagel's vehicle.
Did you miss it?
I must have.
Okay.
Is it in there?
Yeah, it is.
Okay,
In
what,
fact, asked about Ryan Nagel's Jeep, weren't you?
if you want to show me.
Well, I don't want to sit here and, did you review your
I
transcript?
just read it all. I didn't see it.
Ms. McCabe, you
Objection.
can't interrupt when I'm talking.
Okay.
I will do the same courtesy for you. Okay?
Objection for what? There's nothing to object to. He's just throwing out objections because in Massachusetts, you don't have to state the basis for it. So why not just keep objecting every time, a question is hurtful to your case that you're trying to get a conviction on, and just cut the defense off the knees.
As you reviewed those pages, you were asked about the cars that you saw in front, did you not?
I was asked about Miss Reed's vehicle.
Okay. And at no point did you mention a Jeep being behind Miss Reed's vehicle, as you testified today, correct?
The questions were all about Miss Reed's vehicle.
At no point.
Yeah, but the relation of the vehicles is relevant as well. So again, something strange is going on with her not mentioning the Jeep and the Jeep being relevant. The Jeep also had a snowplow on it. I know some of y'all think the snowplow might have done it, but
My question is this, it's yes or no? You did or you didn't? Did you mention ever in that grand jury that there was a Jeep behind Miss Reed's vehicle? Yes or no?
I'm not sure. I'd have to read it all.
As you sit here, do you recall mentioning the Jeep?
I was asked about Miss Reed's vehicle, and those are the questions I answered.
You need to keep your
Okay.
voice up, please.
right. But you need to say where her vehicle was in relation to other vehicles, right? So why didn't she just go ahead and mention the Jeep? What vehicles were surrounding her car? So again, it's very, very evasive type testimony.
Sorry.
Let's try this again. As you sit here, do you recall mentioning the Jeep, ma'am?
I would have to reread the transcript.
You don't have to reread the transcript to answer that question. Do you recall mentioning the Jeep? If you don't, you don't.
I may not have been asked about the Jeep, so I did not mention the Jeep.
Fair enough. Did you, Mr. Higgins, between then and now, between the date of the incident and now, have you ever had a conversation with Mr. Higgins about where his Jeep was parked?
No.
Have you ever had a conversation with Mr. Higgins about anything having to do with this case?
I do not believe so.
Did anyone, leaving Mr. Higgins aside, did anyone tell you anything about Mr. Higgins's Jeep and what he testified to?
No.
Were you ever asked by anybody to mention a Jeep being behind Ms. Reed's SUV in this trial?
Can you repeat the question, please?
Were you ever asked by anybody to make sure you mention a Jeep being parked behind Ms. Reed's SUV in this trial?
Not that I recall, no.
After you arrived and you noticed this SUV outside. You started paying somewhat close attention to it, did you not?
I went to the front door and looked out the window at the vehicle, yes.
As a matter of fact, you texted as soon as you saw the vehicle, that 12:27 here, correct?
Correct.
And then a few minutes later, at 12:31, you texted, pull behind me to John. Is that right?
Correct.
And then at 12:40, you texted hello, correct?
Correct.
And at 12:42, you texted, where are you?
Correct.
And at 12:45, you texted hello, correct?
Correct.
So that's 5 text messages. And each time you texted him, you were walking to the door and looking out at the vehicle as you're texting, correct?
I know for the first 2 I was.
This is very odd behavior. Why is she looking out? Why is she so concerned with John O'Keefe and whether he gets there and sending these text messages and whatnot? It's just very, there's something else going on here.
You testified at another hearing, another proceeding on June 8th, 2023, correct?
Correct.
In that other proceeding, did you testify that you got up and sat down and got up and sat down every time you were texting?
Possibly.
Okay, so if you got up and walked over to the door and you see the SUV and you text,
Mhm.
and then you walk away from the door and sit down for a second, that would be one text and one view of the SUV, correct?
Yes.
So if you did that at 12:27, 12:31, 12:40, 12:42, and 12:45, you'd agree that's 5 times that you were up and down looking at the SUV, correct?
I'm not sure if I did it 5 times.
How many times do you think you did do it?
I know I definitely did it the first when I said here. I know I definitely did it when I said pull behind me because that's when the vehicle had moved up a little bit.
And then did you see the vehicle move up again?
Why would she be concerned about where he's parking? Him and Jen. I mean, it's pretty straightforward. You find a spot to park. You don't need another adult in the house to tell you where to park and how to park. It's just very odd.
Second time?
Yes, that's when I told him to pull behind me.
Okay, so that's the first time. So just so we're clear, when you first saw the SUV, it was stationary, correct?
When I first saw the vehicle, it was straight ahead out the front door stationary.
And you texted here.
Correct.
Then you walked back over to the window, or I'm sorry, to the door, to the storm door, and you said, pull behind me, correct? At 12:31.
Correct.
All right. At that point, you saw that it had moved up a little bit. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay. So if you saw it move up a second time, which you just said you did, then that would be a third time that you had to have seen it and texted, correct?
Why would that be third time?
Because it only moved once so far. You saw it move twice.
So the first time I saw it, it was here. And I said here. And then the next time I texted, I said, pull behind me. So that was 1 time, 2 times.
Keep going.
Why pull behind her? Why is that important? Why is she trying to control where he parks? This makes no sense other than the fact that it's very, very suspicious behavior.
You said you saw it pull up again, a second time. So you saw it move twice.
From one place to the flagpole to further up.
Right. So that's 3 times that you're up to the door.
Okay.
Is that yes?
I'm telling you, my memory is twice to the door.
Mr. McCabe, it's not a trick question. You just testified that you saw the car move twice. By definition, that has to be, you looked at it 3 times. Stationary, move once, move twice.
Maybe I used the wrong wording.
Maybe. Let me have just a moment, Your Honor.
Sure.
Here
So-
she's not looking at the jury at all. You know, some of the other times she looked at the jury once. So here she's not looking at the jury at all.
When you testified in front of this other proceeding, Didn't you testify that you walked up and sat back down 5 different times, watching that car and texting every single time?
Would you be able to show me that?
It's gonna take a minute. We have one here on. Thank you.
There's nothing, from my experience in trying cases, I make reads on people and how they act in the courtroom, and especially the defendant and key witnesses for the prosecution. There's nothing I've seen of all the hours of videotape about Karen when they pan over to her. There's nothing I see that she looks guilty, and I usually can pick up on that pretty good. If a defendant's looking like they got something that is squirrely or cagey about them, and they just have sort of an aura about them that I pick up on, and I'm not picking up any of those kind of indicators with Karen. I know there's some stuff she said outside of court where she says, we don't know who did this, and then the other time she says, yeah, we know who did it, and so I think that's more of a bad lawyering type of thing than is her trying to be deceptive. But if you're going to be out in public, you cannot have your client get tripped up on this kind of stuff. So I really put that on the lawyers. I'm not attributing that to her, because a lot of lawyers tell the clients what to say, even if it's stuff that they should not be telling them what to say, because it's not the client's own belief. So, and I think that this is if she would ever take the stand, that this kind of stuff that she said out in public could come back on her, and then it's a lot tougher to explain. So I'm just not comfortable with clients ever talking to the media like this, and so we'll see how it pans out. But I just think it's not a good idea also to have that team following the defense team around and sort of getting to see how they war game and defend this case, because the prosecution could use some of that against them. And anyway, it's just hopefully there's nothing there they can use. But in the end, I think it's a lesson learned that you don't want to have too much media focus on your client, even if it's a winnable case, because the government has no credible case and no credible evidence to present against your client. Yeah, that's a good way to say it. She looks like she has right indignation. I don't know if I can.
May I, Your Honor?
Yes.
Take a look at those 4 pages. For the record, that's pages 780, 784.
Okay.
Base stamp. After you've had a chance to review that, just look up and let me know.
Yeah, officer, yeah, I think you and I agree with that. There's just too much that can go wrong, things you can't control. It's all on videotape there to see for the most part. I'm on the scale. That's one way of saying it. Yeah. It's taking a lot of time. Yeah, this is weird that she needs this much time to answer a question. She's had multiple times to prepare for a grand jury. This is not many, many years since the incident happened.
Yeah.
Yes.
You had an opportunity, Ms. McCabe, to review those few pages from your testimony in June of 2023.
Yes,
Did you talk about, you were asked about getting up and sitting down and looking at the SUV several different times and texting?
yes,
In fact, you indicated that you got up and looked outside through that storm door several times, correct?
yes,
And as a matter of fact, you looked every single time that you texted, you indicated that you looked out at the SUV and saw something that prompted you to text something, correct?
correct.
And then after the last time, which would be 5 times, 5 texts, 5 looks, after the last time you texted, you got back up, which would be a 6th time, and the SUV was gone.
Yeah, so that's her testimony's different here now. So she's being faced. She's
Just
being faced with-
chronological.
She's being faced with the issue of you said something different before. Now you're trying to backtrack from it. So this is what the attorney's doing, and he should be doing. This is confronting her with what she said earlier, and she's now having had her memory refreshed. Now she's going to have to answer this, and otherwise he can actually move to have the extrinsic evidence of her previous statements admitted. So she's going to wind up admitting this.
Correct. My husband and I were both getting up and looking. So,
I didn't ask you about your husband,
okay.
just about you. The answer is correct.
Yes,
So you're indicating that you're trying to communicate with the occupant of the SUV that was sitting, what would you say, 30 feet outside the front door?
I'm not good with distance.
It's further than you and I are from each other, correct?
Correct,
At least double that, right?
correct.
Okay, so could you give me, maybe yards are easier, like 10 yards, 15 yards?
Again, I'm not good with measurements.
Okay, just right outside the front door, though. Within,
Straight outside, yes.
well, straight outside until it moved.
To the front door. Of the front door is where it was.
Okay, straight outside until it moved, according to you, correct?
Yes, and then it moved, correct.
And then moved the second time, correct?
Correct. It moved to the flagpole and then it moved up again.
Okay, then you indicated that you had an absolutely clear view of the SUV. You were asked those questions, correct?
If I had a clear view,
Clear view.
I could see the car out front. Yes,
You know, another thing is that if you look at what we saw earlier, the images of that house, it's a somewhat big house, and there's a bunch of windows, but the windows are not that big, and they seem to have the crossbars over them. The I forget what you call those things, but all the horizontal and vertical lines in the windows to make it look like it's the old Cape Cod style, what we call in the United States. So, you know, that, and they probably have some window treatments and stuff like that. So when she looks out the window, is she actually like opening up blinds and looking through to see what's out there? Because normally you'd have some kind of so many obstructions to seeing what's outside the window, and maybe unless the front door is open. So I would want to get into more of those kind of details of what it means by looking out the window and what effort does it actually take, and use some of the photos from Zillow website to show what the conditions are of the drapes and curtains and whatnot. So I think there's some more details here. If you go into those kind of details, I think it's going to be even more bizarre. Why is she constantly looking outside, wanting to see what's going on with John O'Keefe?
You were asked, you were looking out the front door of the house. Your answer was, uh-huh. You were asked, and there's a window in that door, right? Answer, it was opened. Yeah. Question, so you had a clear view outside. Answer, a clear view outside. Yes. Remember that?
Yes,
And is that your memory? You had a clear view?
I had a clear view of Karen's vehicle outside, correct?
And then you reiterated that with the following exchange. Question, was the amount of snow coming
Objection,
down
Your Honor.
sufficient?
So let's hear the question.
Was the amount of snow coming down sufficient to obstruct your view of the vehicle, or did you have a clear view of it? Answer, I had a good view of it.
Objection.
The objection is as to the form of the question and the reading.
No, that's okay. I'm going to allow the question.
Was that your testimony?
Yes,
So not only did you have a clear view,
Harmony, Ricky, you're asking, do I think the jury senses a witness being evasive? They should. From my experience, they're going to definitely pick up on this kind of stuff. And so Sally Williams saying, I never remember going to a party and looking out the window once, let alone repeatedly. It's just something's going on here. It doesn't add up. There's something more behind the scenes that we just don't know. And if we just don't know and these witnesses are acting suspicious, that lends itself to reasonable doubt against Karen.
you indicated in your words you had a good view of it, right?
correct,
Then you noticed that the SUV was gone after the 12:45 text, right?
correct,
So you're looking at that SUV over the course of between the beginning text and the end text. It's about 19 minutes, right? 12:27 or so to 12:45, 18, 19 minutes, something like that, correct?
correct,
Maybe add a minute because you got back up and didn't text, the SUV was gone, right?
correct,
So you would agree, we just do some basic math. You're looking at that SUV on average about every 3.5 minutes.
I guess I'm, if you want to pull out the times, then you can look at them.
Well, we talked about the times and you
Mhm.
agreed that you were texting between 12:27 and 12:45,
Correct,
right? So if you were just to divide,
Yeah, there's that Ronnie guy. He was mentioned that the defense was having distractions from the witnesses of the prosecution. Yeah, it's you're right. It's not distractions. They're reasonable doubts, and the credibility of all these witnesses is highly suspicious. It's highly something that you cannot rely upon. And so if you can't rely upon it, then there's something else that might have happened to John. And no one's going to be able to prove it exactly what happened unless, like the new North Carolina officer retired described, unless somebody flips and rolls over, we're not going to know exactly what happened. But the government cannot prove that Karen's vehicle is the method and means that was used to kill John. Something else happened. The injuries don't line up. The damage to the car and where they found the plastic pieces of the tail light, all that kind of stuff is just really, really bizarre, and none of it adds up to make any sense. And if it doesn't make any sense, you got reasonable doubt.
that by 5 times, good enough and looking. I don't know, I'm doing the math in my head, maybe it's every 3 minutes or so.
correct.
At no time did you hear any noise or sound outside that was unusual? Caught your
No.
attention? You didn't hear any squealing of tires or squealing of brakes?
No,
You didn't hear any screaming or yelling?
no,
You didn't hear any loud voices or foul language or doors slam?
no,
You didn't hear any verbal argument or like revving of an engine, anything like that?
no,
Matter of fact, you didn't hear any collision or crash, did you?
no,
Matter of fact, the entire time that you looked out at that vehicle with that clear and that good view, you didn't see anything out of the ordinary, did you?
no,
And you would agree with me, as you looked at the SUV, you're looking over the lawn to the SUV out of the street, correct?
correct,
There was no obstruction between you and the SUV. You've already testified to that, is that right?
correct,
And you could see everything in your field of view.
Correct.
And then you saw the SUV gone, it had driven away after 12:45.
Correct.
So I have a question, Ms. McCabe.
Mhm.
Where was the body?
I have no idea. I'm assuming the body was on the front lawn.
Okay. Go back.
Correct.
So I have a question, Ms. McCabe.
Mhm.
Where was the body?
I have no idea. I'm assuming the body was on the front lawn.
The problem with that is you were looking at the front lawn. Weren't you?
I was looking at the vehicle and where it had moved.
You know what field of view is?
Would you like to explain it?
You had a clear and good view across that lawn to the SUV, didn't you?
When it was straight out, I did, yes.
You had a clear and good view of that SUV the entire time until it left, didn't you?
I could see the black SUV, correct.
Nothing was obstructing your vision.
I wasn't looking at the ground.
I didn't ask you about the ground yet. We'll get to the ground. Nothing was obstructing your vision, was it?
No.
So you had a clear and good, your words, not mine,
Point.
a clear and good view of the SUV
Yes.
and everything in front of it.
I never said everything in front of it. I saw the SUV. It's black. It has lights on. And as it moved, I could see it with its lights.
You had a clear view of everything between you and the SUV. All the things closer to you and the SUV.
I wouldn't say that.
So your view was obstructed on what was between you and the SUV, but not obstructed on the SUV?
That's not what I was saying.
No, of course not. Because if you had a clear field of view to the SUV, you could see everything in front of it as well, meaning between you and the SUV as well.
If I'm looking straight out at an SUV, I'm not looking down at the ground.
Let me ask you a question about that. You're focusing right now on my face
Yes.
as you're answering these questions.
Mhm.
You think you'd see, I don't know, an alligator sitting in front of me if it was there?
Objection, Your Honor.
You think you would see something? Can you clearly see that there is nothing between you and me except a podium?
Yes. Well, there's a table.
And you don't have to look down to see that, right?
Correct.
You're looking directly in my face, but you can see things that are between you and me because you have a field of vision, right?
Objection.
This is totally legitimate line of questioning to try to impeach her and show that you should have seen something. If some body was laying there, you would have seen that body laying there. There wasn't that much snow at that time.
I'm going to see counsel at sidebar for just a minute.
So it's very, very frustrating that this witness will not answer questions and is trying to deflect and avoid giving a straight answer. Why didn't you say there was nothing on the front lawn at that time? I would have seen a body if it was laying there. Why didn't she just come right out and say that? Very strange. I'm going to try to jump ahead here. I did switch it from that other channel that I was following the last couple times for Albert because I was not trusting some of their break feeds the way they had spliced it. So I'm just going with Law and Crime. That's what they were following. The Divinity said. So that's why I'm doing here now. But then if there's a break like this, it's not cut out. But at least I get to see truly where the breaks start and stop. Yeah, that's my question, officer, is why all this looking out the window? And she's not the one hosting the party. And there's not that much snow to be wondering if John's going to get home or not. And then suddenly, he's not going to ever make it there. And then you're just so obsessed with whether John makes it or not. But then when he doesn't make it and you see him outside their vehicle, then all of a sudden your interest.
As you looked over that
disappears.
flat lawn with that good and clear view of the SUV, you could see the SUV and everything between you and the SUV, correct?
When I looked out the front window, I could see the SUV clearly, like I'm looking at you right now, and it was further away than you are.
And you did it not once, not twice, not 3 times. You did it 5 times and then a 6th after it was gone, correct?
Correct.
And after that SUV was gone, and you looked out that window with that clear and good view, there was no body, was there?
I never saw a body.
Thank you.
I wish I had.
Sounds like that's a little rehearsed.
Not at all. It's not
Objection.
at all.
I'll let the answer stand.
Yeah, this is very, very unusual testimony. She's so obsessed with where's John? Where's John? John is coming there with his girlfriend. Why are you so concerned about John coming over with his girlfriend? And so what happens? Why did that interest evaporate when he never comes in the house, supposedly? So that's what's so bizarre, is that suddenly the interest in obsession with John, it evaporates.
You left the location about 1:45, is that right?
Yes.
You didn't see anything out of the ordinary as you got in. Was it your car or Mr. McCabe's car?
It was my car.
So what happened this time frame? So she said that it was 1:40 she left. Did I hear that right? Hold on, let me go back.
You left the location about 1:45, is that right?
Yes.
1:45. So it's like
You
an
didn't see
hour.
anything out of the ordinary as you got in. Was it your car or Mr. McCabe's car?
It was my car.
When you got in that SUV of yours, you didn't see anything out of the ordinary outside, correct?
I wasn't looking outside.
Okay. I know that that is the answer that you want to give to every question. My question is yes or no. Did you see anything out of the ordinary?
No.
Thank you. You didn't see anything out of the ordinary when you got in the vehicle?
No.
You didn't see anything out of the ordinary when the vehicle backed up?
I just don't know why he didn't follow up and say, why didn't you keep following up and ask where John's at? If you left with Karen, why didn't you say, hey, why'd you guys leave? What's going on? But that line of questioning just sort of jumps to when she left here. So not sure why that was done that way.
No.
When that vehicle turned to the, I guess it would be to the right, to leave toward Chapman, and the headlights illuminated the area in front of you. Didn't see anything out of the ordinary then.
I wasn't looking out the front window.
Again, there's that question. There's that answer. My question is, did you see anything out of the ordinary?
Well, you were asking about the headlights out the front. That's why I said I didn't see anything out there front.
Oh, you didn't see the headlights turned on?
I was turned to the back.
Right. Did you see that the headlights came on in the car?
Yes, in the driveway, the headlights came on.
Right. And you're seated in the front passenger seat, correct?
Correct.
So according to you, you got in the car and immediately twisted yourself, looking directly to the rear and never turned back around and never looked outside the windows.
Correct.
Is that normal for you?
Yeah, I'm a very chatty person, so I turned to talk to the girls.
So you made sure that you didn't look out the window.
Nope, that's not it at all.
That's a good point.
You also
Rainy Day
didn't
Girl.
hear anybody.
Rainy Day Girl says, I can't with the body when it's supposed to be your beloved friend. Yeah, that's a good point.
You did hear some of the girls in the back, since they were so chatty, talking about bread and sandwiches or something, right?
Correct.
But you never heard anybody say anything about noticing anything out of the ordinary, correct?
Correct.
You didn't hear Julie Nagel say that she saw a black object in the yard.
Never heard that.
But you were turned around looking right at,
Yeah.
according to you, correct?
Correct.
Lucas Knight, you're saying too much emphasis on something that's relatively normal, someone arriving at the house. Yeah, it is very, very unusual. But it looks like also there's something that she has an interest in, an obsession with John O'Keefe. But then why does the interest drop for an hour and you don't see him again when you leave and you never inquire, hey, where did they go? Why did they leave? Well, they drive all the way, get all the way here to the driveway and then they leave. What happened? There's no interest in that after being obsessed with him?
Indeed, engaging them in conversation, according to you,
Correct.
so that you can make sure that you weren't looking out the front or right windows.
Objection.
Can you answer that? Is that why you did it?
No, that's not why I did it. I was talking to the two girls.
When you got home, what did you do?
I went up to bed.
What time do you think you got home?
Somewhere after approximately between 2 and 2:15.
Took you a few minutes to drop the girls off?
Correct.
When you got home, you got on your phone, correct?
Yes.
Before you got on your phone, you went upstairs to your bedroom.
Yes.
Did you use any applications? Well, let me ask it this way first. Did you make any phone calls, just using your phone, any phone calls after you got home, either downstairs or upstairs?
I do not believe so.
Did you use any applications to communicate with anybody through Wi-Fi? Do you know what I mean by that? Like FaceTime audio or WhatsApp phone calls, things like that?
A text message?
No, actually, and you may not use these, but I'm asking, did you use any kind of third-party app that uses Wi-Fi, VoIP calls other than just a phone call?
No.
Sounds like you don't even know what that is.
I don't even know what you're talking about.
Fair enough. So it's safe to say that you didn't use or you don't use any multimedia to communicate. You don't use FaceTime or Snapchat or Signal or anything like that.
I've used FaceTime with my children, yes.
Not for phone calls.
No.
Like FaceTime audio is a way that you can make a call. No,
I've FaceTimed with my kids at school.
that's videos. Right?
Oh, okay. So yeah, I guess not.
You didn't do that night either.
Not that I recall.
Did you, now I'm going to get back to your question. Did you text anybody?
I did, yes.
Who did you text?
I texted my sisters and I texted my husband and a friend in a group chat.
You texted your husband and a friend in a group chat?
Mhm.
Yes?
Yes,
Your husband was home?
yes.
Yeah, I saw there was a question about what difference does it make if the judge is biased. Well, it makes a huge difference in the amount of evidence you get in, and even the comments and cues, like you're saying, from the judge can impact the jury. And if they don't trust the lawyer, then they cannot trust the evidence and the arguments accordingly. So that's why it's very crucial. And as I've said, you got to be credible. The paramount thing you have to do as a trial attorney is to have credibility with the jury. You cannot be caught up in any kind of deception, lies, and you can't do that outside of the court either. And because that can come back to bite you. And so you need to make sure you have all your ducks in a row. You need to speak with truth at all times. And I just don't believe in speaking outside the actual court on a case. If that happened, I've never had a big case like this that got all this media attention, but I can tell you if I did, I would not. And if Karen was my client, I would not be having her doing all the public engagements like she is. I think it maybe is also stemming from the fact that they need money to help afford the defense and these experts. So that may be the reason that they do something they normally wouldn't do. But in this case, when we just look at this witness here and that big time gap in question and why she suddenly lost interest, John O'Keefe, that's what I want to know. Is that true? She never went to the
I want to
funeral?
switch gears for a second. And ask you real quick about later that morning when you went to John O'Keefe's house. You mentioned on Friday that you went into his house and began to look around for him when you first got there with Carrie Roberts, and my client, Karen Reed, correct?
Yes,
You indicated that you looked in his bedroom and saw that the bed was made, correct?
yes,
You indicated that you looked around other parts of the house looking for him, searching for him. Is that right?
yes,
You obviously saw the blankets and pillows on the couch downstairs in the living room, correct?
I peeked over at the couch.
And you're aware that Karen Reed stayed on the couch that night to wait for John to come home.
I'm not aware of that, no.
You testified on Friday that my client said at the scene, when you got back to the scene, 34 Fairview, just after 6
Why
a.m.,
is that?
that she said, I hit him.
Because she testified earlier that she loved John O'Keefe. So why isn't she going to the funeral?
3 times. She declared it, correct?
Correct.
Not once, not twice, 3 times. I hit him, I hit him, I hit him, correct?
Correct.
You have a very specific memory of that event, do you not?
I do.
Obviously, that's an incredibly impactful thing for you to remember. Is that right?
It was an impactful statement, yes.
And you remember it today as well as you remembered it the day she did it.
Yes.
Let's see if we got-
I may have just a moment here. Thank you.
I'm going to go a little bit longer here tonight. A lot of good questions from y'all.
May I?
Yes.
Yeah, the thing about Jackson and about the ARCA and whether he's paid him or not, I don't know. I don't quite get that. I think even if he openly admitted that he had paid them and when he paid them, I mean, part of it is they disclosed that to the prosecution. So I think the real thing the judges hung up on is when he said something, made it look like they had not paid him on a sidebar. And that's, I think, the real issue that he could get in trouble for. But I don't understand it. I mean, it makes no sense to me. And the fact that you paid them after the fact or paid either for the first trial or paying for the second trial, none of that affects their credibility or testimony because they do have to get paid for it. They're not going to be paid for the FBI by the FBI or Department of Justice to come for this trial. So somebody has to pay them, and the prosecution doesn't want to call them as witnesses. So based on that, it has to be the defense, and they're not going to come there unless they get paid. And so, yeah, I don't know why they just wouldn't disclose that ahead of time, but it's something that makes no sense to me, but it is what it is. And he could get in trouble for it. I think if he does get in trouble for it, it'll happen after the trial's over. I don't think she's going to rule ahead of time on that.
It's just the entirety. I'm going to hand you a document. Before I ask you about that specific document, did you review anything before you testified in preparation for your testimony today or Friday?
Yes,
Did you review your grand jury testimony?
I did, yes.
Understood. You did review your grand jury testimony, correct?
Yes,
So the document in front of you, you recognize it?
yes,
That is in fact a true and correct copy of your grand jury testimony that you gave on April 26th, 2022. Is that right?
correct.
I agree, officer.
You'll agree that your testimony in that case, in that hearing, rather, April of 2022, that was just a few months after the events in question, right?
Yes,
You were under oath at the time that you gave that testimony,
yes,
and you were subject to the penalty of perjury when you were answering those questions, correct?
yes,
Ms. McCabe, I'd like you to turn to the page, since you've reviewed this, turn to the page of that document where you ever said in your testimony that my client said, I hit him, I hit him, I hit him.
Was I asked what she said?
I get to ask the questions.
Well, I'd like you to direct me where to look.
I want you to look at the entire grand jury testimony if you need to, and turn to the page where you ever said that my client said, I hit him, I hit him, I hit him.
I'm not sure if it's in this document, but I can tell you today with 100% clarity, she said, I hit him, I hit him, I hit him on that morning.
Okay, now she's actually looking at the jury. She's so convinced she needs to tell the jury this and convince them that it's the truth. But what did she say previous? Has this been her consistent testimony?
So it's not in that document, is it?
I'm not sure if I could take the time, and do you want me to read over 200 pages?
May I approach?
Yes.
See, I'd be questioning
No, I
her
don't wanna
about,
take the
well, you
time.
had your attorney to go over
Because
that
just
with you.
indicated
You're not
that you
prepared to
reviewed this
testify?
document in
Love John
anticipation
so
of
much?
testimony, right?
And you can't be prepared to testify for his trial where he's his accused murder is facing the trial, something like that. And so yeah, all this I can't remember. I need to look at it. Can you show me? This is just I would really be crossing her tough on this kind of stuff.
Correct.
So you've gone over it recently,
A few weeks back.
so we don't need to read it. You know that you never testified to that in the grand jury in April of 2022, don't you?
I don't know that as a fact. I would have to reread 222
Okay.
pages or however long it is.
You think you might have missed it when you reviewed your testimony in anticipation for, I'm sorry, when you reviewed your transcript and
That's a huge point also. I guarantee you the prosecution would want to know, has she said this kind of testimony before? Is this something that she is saying now and getting nervous about it because maybe she feels like she's could be a suspect at some point. She's got a lawyer involved and she's very nervous about more evidence coming forward. So there's something here that that is just so telling that she's very nervous about, and she's hoping this doesn't have to be discussed, and she's hoping the attorney is going to say, no, okay, we don't have time to look over the couple hundred pages, so we'll just move on. But a good defense attorney is not going to give up. He's going to keep going circling around this and going in for the kill.
anticipation for your testimony?
Objection.
Hello.
I read
Allow
it.
it.
I read it a few weeks ago,
It's probably the most powerful part of your testimony, ma'am.
and I will never forget it.
Objection.
Okay, so that's,
Wow. See how much she's trying to put a dagger through Karen to say this is what she said, but she only came up with this story recently. So how credible is it?
stricken.
Would you agree? Do you think that's a powerful part of your testimony?
Objection.
I'll allow that.
And my
It is.
question, Lally, sit down and button it.
Yes.
Did you see it in the transcript?
I
Garbage.
cannot recall. It's over 200 pages.
Oh my gosh, it's over 200 pages. Oh my gosh. Well, how many thousands of dollars have you spent on an attorney? I would keep hammering away at that.
May I approach you?
Yes.
You hire an attorney and pay thousands of dollars to hire an attorney, get you prepped for court, and yet you're not even prepped.
190, 192, 193, 201, 208, and 109. I'm just going to show you these questions.
Yes. These are select pages.
I agree with this, Alan Jackson's.
Out of your grand jury testimony. Isn't it true, Ms. McCabe, that you were asked when you testified no fewer than 12 times what my client said, either at the scene or on the way to the scene?
Yes, she was. This is the most incriminating thing she can do to help pin and nail the person that supposedly killed the man she loves. And yet she won't say those incriminating
At the
words.
scene, I was asked twice, according to this.
My question is, isn't it true that in April of 2022, you testified no fewer than 12 times, 12 separate statements you gave about what my client's statements were, either at the scene or in the car ride on the, leading up to go into the scene? You remember that?
I do.
Okay, so on page 190 of what you're looking at,
Mhm.
it should all be highlighted.
It is.
You testified that my client said to you over the phone at 4:53 a.m., she asked the question, did I hit him? You see that?
I do.
Number two, on page 192, talking about when y'all were in the car on the way to the scene, Karen asked the question, could I have hit him? You see that?
Yes.
Page 193, lines 1 through 2. You testified that in the car, once again, she asked the question, could she have hit him?
Here, the defense attorney's doing a good job. He's showing more passion. He's trying to zero in. He's trying to put pressure on the witness. This is what you want to see from an attorney, where he's you can tell by his tone, he's like frustrated because of the fact that she will not give a straight answer on this. And she's trying to deflect and not answer straight questions and using her lack of memory as the reason for a lot of
Hit
this.
him? You were relaying that, meaning could I have hit him, correct?
Correct.
Page 193, line 23. In John's driveway, she asked the question, quote, and she's asking if she could have hit him.
Yes.
Page 201, driving to Fairview. She asked the question, what if I hit him? And could I have hit him? Correct?
Correct.
Page 202, lines 1 through 2. While driving to Fairview, she asked the question, could I have hit him?
Correct.
Page 208, lines 24 through 25, outside at Fairview, she asked the question, did I hit him? And went on to ask, could I have hit him? Correct?
Correct.
And your testimony was also on page 208 that Karen was yelling nonstop in front of the female EMT, did I hit him? Could I have hit him? Is he dead? Correct?
Correct.
May I approach?
Yes.
That's 12 times that you reiterated under oath, under penalty of perjury, in April of 2022, what my client's statements were, either at the scene or leading up to getting to the scene, correct?
Correct.
Every single one of those, 12 separate times, you indicated that she asked a question, something like, could I have hit him or did I hit him, correct?
Correct.
Wow. I mean, this is like so bad as a witness to get trounced like this. I mean, she's just eating all those words that she said. You can't believe her on any of that. Anything incriminating where she ramps it up and twists it around where something normal for someone in Karen's shoes to sit there and say, oh my gosh, did I hit him? What could happen? You automatically are going to blame yourself. So I don't look at the question, oh, did I hit him, as being incriminating and all. I think that's probably a normal response. If you knew you'd last seen him as he's leaving the car and you're driving home. So I think that her trying to paint this picture and really pile on and make this stuff up against Karen Reed, again, is just so damning for the prosecution's case. None of this is making it look like Karen's guilty. It looks like all these other people have something to hide. So the defense doesn't have to prove that they did it or they're covering up for somebody that did it. The bottom line is all these people that the prosecution's parading forward to present truth have so many holes in their testimony and they're acting so evasive. It just right there, that speaks reasonable doubt.
One time in that testimony, did you say she declared, I hit him, I hit him, I hit him? Did you?
the questions that were asked, when she said, I hit him, I hit him, I hit him, that was at the scene in response to an officer asking questions. What I just read was us when she first called me, or when we were driving in the car, or when we were at John's house. So I was answering the question that I was asked.
Oh, okay. So they didn't say where exactly was she having these conversations. So she's trying to deflect again.
So you believe that you weren't asked the question, did she say to an officer, I hit him, I hit him, I hit him? And if you're not asked the question, did she say to an officer, I hit him, I hit him, I hit him? You're not going to volunteer that she said, I hit him, I hit him, I hit him. That's your testimony.
No, that's
Yeah. So, I mean, if she would have said, I hit him, I hit him, I hit him, that would have came out. She would have repeated that all the time. They're trying to help solve the case, supposedly, right? So you would readily admit that. You'd bring that incriminating evidence that Karen supposedly said and put that out there front and center for anybody you're giving a statement to know that, hey, she actually said she hit him. Can you believe that? She admitted to hitting him. But that's not what happened.
not. My testimony is an officer was asking her what his name was and different things about him. And at that point, she was saying, I hit him, I hit him, I hit him.
Which officer?
I do not recall.
Well, you called me, I hit him. You just told me that was the most impactful thing in the morning.
It was shocking.
So what officer did she say this to, supposedly?
I was more focused on her and her hysteria than which officer was asking the question.
So you have no idea who the officer was even, correct?
I'm not sure which officer was asking her. It could have been an EMT. Someone said, what is his name? Does he have medical conditions? How old is he?
But you were asked that question, ma'am. On page 208, you were asked what she said in front of the female EMT who was asking her questions. And her answer was, your answer was, she said, did I hit him? Could I have hit him? Is he dead?
Mm-hmm.
Is that right?
That is correct.
That
But-
would have been a good time to offer up that she confessed, I hit him, I hit him, I hit him, right?
Objection.
Sustained as to that form.
Ms. McCabe, the truth of the matter is you've manufactured this new story for this jury because you think it helps you out.
Absolutely not.
You called 911.
Yeah, the My Cousin Vinny comment I saw here, Lizica, you're saying, I absolutely think Jen pulled a My Cousin Vinny on Karen that morning. That had to do with Joe Pesci trying to pass a bar. He wasn't licensed yet, and he gets pulled into his, I think it was his nephew and their friend, that they were at a stopping in Alabama, and they got, there was a murder of a clerk at the convenience store they were at, the gas station, whatever. And they were told, hey, you shot the clerk. And then the one of the two parties there, I think it was not the nephew, but the other one, the friend of the nephew, says, I shot the clerk, like with a question mark. And as it turns out, they said he admitted to shooting the clerk. So it was all just mistaken context. And so that's probably some of that here as well. That, but then it's ratcheted up to actually saying it's a declaration. I hit him. I hit him. I hit him. So there's a big, huge difference in that. And now what she's doing, from all appearance, it looks like she's putting that spin on it to make it look like it's a declaration, not a question mark.
911 at 6:04 a.m. Is that right?
Yes.
Your Honor, with the court's permission, Exhibit 36 has already been marked and entered. I would ask to play a portion of that 911 tape, not the entirety of it.
Okay.
Yeah, notice how she gets so radical and so angry and tries to look at the jury, and she's really spun up about this, right? So that's another indicator. Something's going on here that makes her very uncomfortable. So with that, I'm gonna
With the court's permission, I'd ask
going on,
to
almost
play
2.5
about
hours here,
runtime
so
1:30 to 1:45.
we'll wrap it up here in a couple minutes.
If you can give me 2 seconds. Yes. Do you recognize the voice on that tape?
Yes, that's mine.
Appear to be a true and accurate, at least that portion, a true and accurate reporting of the 911 call that you made that morning?
It was a very brief clip. I'd have to hear more.
Let's go ahead and play, starting at runtime 1:30 to about where it runs in 1:45.
6 years old.
46, how long has he been outside?
I don't know. I don't know. He's been in a car.
Was that you? Was
Yes, it was.
that the 911 call?
Yes, it was.
And what did you just say?
I said, I don't know. He got out of the car.
He got out of the car,
Mhm.
is what you said, correct?
Yes,
And this was at 6:03 in the morning, correct?
correct,
This is before you ever talked to Brian Albert,
correct,
before you ever talked to your sister Nicole Albert,
correct,
before you ever talked to Chris Albert,
correct,
before you ever talked to Julie Albert.
correct,
You haven't talked to anybody at this point other than Carrie Roberts, correct?
and Karen Reed.
And my client.
Correct.
And in that 911 call, you said he got out of the car, didn't you?
I did because Karen Reed had told me that she had left him there.
Your words were, he got out of the car, correct?
Correct.
Did you make any other calls other than to 911?
I called my sister.
What time was that?
I believe it was after the 911, but I'm not sure.
You claim that your sister didn't answer, is that right?
She did not answer.
But you do know that your phone extraction shows that that was an answered call at 6:07.
If that's what it shows, but I can tell you she did not answer the phone.
And you are as sure about that as you are, my client said, I hit him 3 times, right?
I certainly am, yes.
Perfect. You also called her at 6:08.
I might have called her twice, yes.
Kiara, I have a,
All right, I'm going to stop there. This is a good point to take a break. And you can see we got some of that would also be redirect. So I'm going to have a part 2 on this one as well. And so that'll be probably Friday night. So if you guys want to join then, we'll follow this up because this gets really, really, really hotly contested here the further this goes on. So look forward to joining y'all, and y'all have a safe week. And maybe we'll see you Friday. Take care. Thanks.